2020 meeting of the Town of Southampton Conservation Board. In accordance with the Governor's Executive Orders 202.1 and 202.67, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference until further notice, so that we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. The meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website. If you do not wish to speak at the live meeting, but you would like to submit comments for the public record, the link to submit comments can also be found on the town's website. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. Also, as a reminder, we ask that applicants and their agents please state their name and address for the record. Please join me as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which
stands one
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we'll do the roll call as we are accustomed to. Harry? Jerry?
Yeah.
Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Yeah.
Now with my computer, I only see 9, so if somebody else comes in, like Sunshine, please let me know so I don't skip her for the meeting, for the vote. Public hearings. A180673 Lynn Mara Revocable Trust. The applicant requests adjournment to December 16th, 2020. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak in this application?
The reason for the adjournment is?
The attorney did not provide a reason. The attorney is Michael Walsh.
Good to know the reason why, so we can help them decide whether there's enough time to get done by the date they're asking for. What?
This has been going on for about 1.5 years.
How many adjournments? How many adjournments?
The date that was last discussed was over 1 year ago.
Yeah, they have not submitted any additional new information. At some point in the process, the agents had changed. The new agents, Bruce Anderson and Mike Walsh, have not yet presented.
How long have they been agents?
They've probably been agents for at least 6 months or more. Teresa, she's on mute. At least 6 months, maybe a year.
I don't have the file in front of me, but I think at least the last 2 adjournments were done by their office.
Well, they either have to present or we have to move on. They can't just keep asking for adjournments. If they're not ready, then we close them out. They can reapply. It's over 1 year, forget it. But no new information?
They want to adjourn for about 2 months. Then is it time for a letter, Tom?
Yes, it is. It's time for a letter to tell them they need a fish or cut bait next time, or we'll move on.
All right. Kelly, are you comfortable doing that?
Yes, our office can draft a letter.
Okay.
If you would like to vote on the final adjournment date, then I can, our office can send a letter.
December what, Harry?
December 16th.
I make a motion that this be the final adjournment to December 16th and that a letter be drafted by the town attorney telling them so.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye. Oh,
Jerry?
aye.
Yeah, for some reason, you guys switched around here. I don't know what made that happen.
Magic.
Yeah, I guess.
Halloween. All kinds of things happen on Halloween.
This is all beyond me. Okay, A019100, the Colonel's Way LLC, and the applicant requests adjournment to December 2nd, 2020. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak on this application? We have not heard this application, and it was presented first on September 9th.
Motion to adjourn to December the 2nd?
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
A020045, Loris Nazarian.
We do have affidavits of posting and mailing, and the board does have jurisdiction to open the hearing tonight.
Okay, now he was here earlier and Daphne was in the waiting room. Are they present now?
I see Loris on the screen, but it's a still photo and it's muted.
I'll bring him in.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Charles, is Daphne Vaughn in the waiting room?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll need to let her in. She's his agent.
There's Daphne Vaughan and Michael Gentile, my architect, in the meeting room.
Hey.
Okay, is Daphne in now?
Here.
Hello, Daphne.
Hi, Harry.
We're doing your application now. Would you like to present your application?
Sure. Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning, 225 Montauk Highway, Mauritius. I am the agent for Loris Nazarian. So, so where am I going to start? We have an existing one-story single-family residence and a detached garage accessory building on this property at 99 Crescent Street in Noyak. The footprint of the existing residence is 1,400 square feet, with the detached accessory building at another 300. So we have 1,700 square feet of roofed structures that will be demolished as part of the project. There's
We don't see your video, your picture.
Yeah, I don't see why it's not coming up.
Can you double click it again?
Yeah, I'll close out of it and I'll double click again. Sorry. I'm just trying to get the arrows up for you. Did it come up?
No.
Not yet.
Sorry. Let's see. All right, let's try this again.
You should try to double click it on your computer before you share it.
Ah, okay. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that.
okay. So now you see the property. So there's the existing residence and the detached garage accessory building. There's a deck on the back of each of them. The deck square footages between the two buildings is about 415 square feet. That will all be demolished. There's also a patio that's kind of to the left of the deck off of the house. It's kind of a faint square. That's just some concrete block in the soil. That's about 125 square feet that will all be removed. The property contains a functional bulkhead, which you can see in this aerial. There's also a boat ramp that is open an open portion of the bulkhead. There is no wetland vegetation in the boat ramp. It's actually at a higher elevation from the soil seaward of the bulkhead. So the bulkhead is the equivalent of the wetland boundary here. There's also a bulkhead next door on 95 Crescent, which is to the east of the property, that there's a return that comes in closer to the detached structure on this lot. So that brings the wetland boundary a little bit closer than the face of the bulkhead. That's the majority of the, in front of the property. Sorry. So basically the project is to demolish everything here. There's 4 cesspools that are located seaward of the structures. 2 of them are in front of the residence. The other 2 are right in front of the accessory building. The closest point of them is at about 17.5 feet from the bulkhead. So the priority is to remove that and to install a new IA system, which is dictating the setbacks and location of everything else. So we're proposing a new 2-story dwelling. The footprint of the house we submitted an initial plan, and then we got the staff report and submitted 2 alternative plans. So I'm just going to go right to our preferred alternative plan, which I think Teresa might have.
Which is that the easterly or the westerly?
Easterly.
Easterly pool?
Okay.
Go.
Okay, so this is the preferred alternative plan. The original, okay, so the dotted lines on here show the existing structures, and you can see they're kind of skewed to the property lines. They're not parallel to those side lot lines. We're proposing an IA system that complies with all of the Suffolk County Department of Health setbacks from the road, the property lines, and the structures. And that's taking up the majority of the street side of the property. So the dark lines are the proposed 2-story residence. The footprint is 1,563 square feet, and there's a second floor of 1,807 feet that's partially cantilevered over a proposed covered deck, as well as a portion of a proposed swimming pool. The residence will be FEMA compliant with a first floor elevation at 10 feet above sea level. This is a FEMA AE 6 flood zone. So the first floor elevation with the freeboard needs to be at 8. So we're actually going to be exceeding FEMA on 10. The house will be constructed on pilings. A small corner of the house is seaward of the limit of moderate wave action, but it's also my understanding that which means we'll have to put the house on piles per the building department, New York State Building Code. But it's my understanding from Mike Gentile, the architect, who is here, that the substrate will best be served by a piling foundation to support the residence. The proposed decking and porches are minimal, as you can see in the plan. We're proposing a pervious gravel driveway for 2 parking spots on the east side of the house. We have that eastern portion of the residence is maximized at a wetland setback from the wetlands, as well as from the street. It's minimized from the street, maximized from the wetlands. There's a pre-existing non-conforming zoning setback from the road of 17.8 feet here that we're allowed to hold for new construction. So that's what we're showing. It also meets the setbacks for the sanitary system for the structure. So the pool has been maximized to a 40-foot setback from that pinch point of the adjacent bulkhead to the portion of the pool that's holding the majority of the water. This is a negative edge swimming pool that will be at the first floor elevation of 10. So it will be approximately 4.2 feet, I believe, above the existing grade. So there's a proposed trough for that negative edge pool, and that's at a 36-foot setback from that pinch point. It's a 44.7-foot setback from the face of the bulkhead and 40.6 feet to the trough for the pool. The residence itself is pretty much in keeping with the setbacks of the existing residence. The existing residence is at 39.4 feet at its closest point to the bulkhead. So when we straightened out the house so it's not skewed like the existing residence, the closest point of the residence is actually at 38 feet. So it's a 1.6 foot difference in the setback of the residence. But we're gaining a much better sanitary system, pulling everything away from the water. We're showing dry wells for the swimming pool, pool equipment, dry wells for the roof, as well as I mentioned, the pervious driveway. There were 2011 Conservation Board permits on this to legalize that detached structure. And the result of that was mitigation in the form of a 20-foot covenanted non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, which is shown on this plan and is in compliance to date. It's planted with native grasses. We are showing an expansion to that buffer here that comes as close as, I believe, maybe 8 feet. Maybe Mike can speak to that setback from the corner of the swimming pool. So this is our preferred plan. We do have an alternative plan that was suggested in the staff report for the project that shows, basically flips everything and shows the swimming pool on the west side of the property. So I think Teresa's opening that now. Yes, so that's the plan. And it's generally the same structurally. The only real differences here are the setbacks of the swimming pool and the residence. So flipping the residence, keeping it exactly the same, you get to that pinch point on the east side for the residence, that the residence becomes 34.7 feet from that pinch point of the bulkhead, or 37.1 feet from the face of the bulkhead, but the swimming pool gains better setbacks at 42.7 to the trough and 46.7 feet for the actual bulk of the swimming pool. The swimming pool is 12 by 20. Actually, on this plan, it's showing it 12 by 21. So it's 1 foot longer on this plan. But it's still all the same. Everything's dictated by the location of the sanitary system. We're showing the driveway as pervious with the dry wells, pool equipment, etc. The expansion of the buffer on this plan is less than the preferred plan, simply because the residence then gets closer to the buffer, and we would like to have a 9.5 foot space separation between that corner on the east side of the structure and the residence in the buffer. This structure is also very minusculely, if that's a word, seaward of the limb wall line. But as I said, the architect is indicating that the best possible construction for this residence will be on piling.
Daphne, I have a question for you.
Yes,
Is the square footage of the house the same in both configurations?
it is actually very slightly larger with the pool on the west side. It,
And Teresa, could you put
Yeah,
up
I
the,
have that information. The easterly, the alternative is 3,484 square, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. 3,370 square foot total floor area. And the westerly alternative, 3,418. The initial footprint, I believe, was on the initial plan was 1,616. The westerly alternative reduced that by approximately 36 square feet, whereas the easterly one reduced it by 53 square feet. So
would you
a
put
little
up,
bit under 15, a little over 15, a little under 1,600.
would you put the first, the easter, when the pool's on the east, would you put that up on the screen again, please? All right, that's what I remember. That's what I see. That's where the buffer does wrap around and it is larger on this drawing.
correct.
So on the easterly side, the house has less square feet and the buffer is larger.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Marty or Teresa, who's doing this one?
I did the initial review. So as Daphne said, there is a bulkhead on the property. However, this property does not qualify for the reduced jurisdiction of 50 feet because there is the break in the bulkhead, which you can see right in this vicinity. So the setback requirement is 100 feet for the structures and the buffer requirement is 75 feet with the septic supposed to be at 150. So regardless of what you do on this property, you need significant relief on this property because again, the entire parcel is not fully bulkheaded. There is that break in the bulkhead. So they are asking for significant relief over nearly 70 feet or more for the structures. Now, let me see, the proposed construction, both alternatives are within the limb wall. We had recommended that they consider reducing the footprint more so that they can bring the entirety of the house landward of the limb wall, wherein they could build a foundation with hydrostatic openings. And that can be done by installing pilings with pile caps and then putting in a foundation walls around that. So even though there may be issues with the substrate there, they can still accomplish that by doing that. We had recommended in discussions with Daphne that perhaps the whole dwelling could be reduced, or the partial part of the width of the dwelling could be reduced so that we can achieve a minimum of 40-foot setback from the wetlands, where again, 100 feet is required. Now, I want to point out that the previous Conservation Board wetlands permit that was issued, as well as the Zoning Board wetlands permit that was issued, had prohibited the conversion of the existing detached garage to living space, which was what the initial application was for. So what they're doing here is demoing all the structures and incorporating that existing square footage of the garage into the existing dwelling, and then doubling the size of the house. And as you can see, and I'll zoom in here for you. Okay. Oopsie. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay, I'm having problems here. Hold on one second. Give me a second here. It's not, for some reason, it's not letting me scan, and I apologize for this. But they are almost, if you look at the plan, they're almost maximizing their allowable lot coverage. which I believe is at 20%. So it's a big house for a highly constrained lot. We had recommended other alternatives, reducing the footprint, reconfiguring the dwelling, perhaps putting the swimming pool, if you wanted to have a swimming pool, on the roof. And if you're seeking to build a 3,400 or 3,300, 3,400 square foot house on a 9,000 square foot lot, you do need to work with the constraints of the lot. It's a big lot, it's a big house on a small lot. And if you want to have that size house, you may need to consider abandoning the plans for the swimming pool, or alternatively putting it on the roof. Let's see. Again, notwithstanding the recommended alternatives, the proposed buffer expansion is minimal. Based on both sketches, it's anywhere from 0 to 11 feet of an expanded buffer, when they are again asking for significant relief. Nearly the entirety of the parcel is within the required 75-foot buffer setback. So they again are really asking for relief for the septic system, for the swimming pool, for the structures, and for the buffer. And it's our recommendation that they significantly expand the buffer and consider native landscaping for the remaining portions outside of the buffer.
I visited the property, and the buffer is extensively covered. I mean extensively, with beach grass. I have not seen many buffers that dense.
Right. No, the buffer is in great shape, and I'm not saying that it isn't.
It's
but
actually,
they're going to have to expand it more. 4
Just-
to 11 feet.
Teresa, please, George is speaking. Let's do it one at a time.
it's actually in terrific shape. And the expansion of the buffer on the east side is much more than on the west side. And I believe that the structure is being placed on the initial footprint, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody could clarify that for me if I am mistaken. So I see it as a plus to assume that extra structure into the house to make it a one structure building. And I also see that the footprint is not being expanded. They're putting a second floor on, yes, but I don't believe the exact footprint is being expanded.
If I may, I can speak to that. The footprint of the house is actually being significantly expanded. If you look at the site plan, you can see the underlying footprint of the existing one-story house. Then as spoken to by the applicant, there is deck area, and then there is a detached garage area. The house is a one-story. They're planning a two-story. One of the reasons we had suggested that they explore putting a swimming pool on the roof is the house is going to have a flat roof. So notwithstanding any recommended scaling back of the house footprint, they would still have an exceptional opportunity for rooftop deck and pool atop the roof. As you know, it's the policy of this board to try and maximize setbacks for swimming pools. In the event that the applicant still wanted to go with a pool at grade or just above grade, there is an opportunity to reduce the width of the pool to 8 feet. The pool trough is only between 36 feet from wetlands when the pool is put on the east end of the parcel, and only 42.7 feet if it's constructed at the west end of the parcel. We ask that if the applicant wants to continue to seek relief, to put the pool at grade rather than on top of the roof, that they establish minimum setback of 50 feet. You know, as is standard, when we have a constrained wetland parcel like this, we're looking to provide the applicant with full opportunity to build a house consistent with the intended use, but we're looking to be creative in order to maximize wetland construction and buffer setbacks. The applicant's agent has expressed that the applicant would like to have more on this property. So the applicant is not amenable to native landscaping on the rest of the lot. As you know, we oftentimes recommend that as an area for additional mitigation. So our office is simply looking to reduce the scale of the house. The scale of the house is not reduced. I think serious consideration needs to be given to abandonment of the swimming pool plans. You want to keep the house consistent with this size or similar footprint. Again, I think that the applicant should explore constructing the pool with deck on the flat roof of the proposed house. Thank you.
Oh, we have a similar house right next door to this house, and they have a swimming pool on the east side. I don't believe there's that much difference in terms of the size of the house. I could be wrong. And it seems extravagant to try and take a swimming pool from a spot on the ground and move it onto the roof when we have quite a bit of buffer here, and we have a fairly reasonable setback. And I think sometimes we have to be reasonable.
I would like to point out, George, that the parcel to the east has fully bulkheaded shorefront there. So their jurisdiction is actually 50 feet, whereas on this parcel, the jurisdiction is 200 feet with a minimum 100-foot setback. So there is a difference in site circumstances here. And that they were not seeking to enlarge the house as well as build a swimming pool. They were seeking to build a swimming pool. And if you'd like, I can pull up the approved survey for the adjacent parcel if you'd like.
That's not necessary, Teresa. I'm asking for us to take a reasonable outlook here. You've got two houses right next to one another.
Right, but I'm saying to you that the site circumstances are different because the lot to the east is fully bulkheaded with a bulkhead.
I understand what you're saying.
Daphne, you had given us some numbers that indicated the size of the existing house versus the proposed house.
Yes.
And I wrote some numbers down, and I thought you said that the new house is actually smaller footprint than the house and garage, whatever that structure is, combined.
Yes.
Maury showed how it's not, so I want to understand where the difference is.
Yes. So the existing residence has a footprint of 1,400 square feet. It's only one story. The new residence has a footprint of 1,563. So it's 163 square foot difference in footprint for the new residence versus the old residence. Not even talking about the garage. The garage itself is another 300 square feet of building coverage on the property. So there's 1,700 square feet of building coverage plus a bunch of additional decks. I think I have like 414 square feet in decks, and then there's another 125 square foot patio. So I believe that the combined footprint of everything is significantly less than what's there right now. I also want to say that we've taken a considerable amount of time to formulate these plans. There's been a number of different iterations that we didn't even bring to the board because they just didn't work out. To us, this is the best possible plan for this property. I understand that full jurisdiction is being looked at on this because of the opening in the bulkhead. I will say that the New York State DEC, which I know is not necessarily relevant, has issued a letter of non-jurisdiction on this property because the opening in the bulkhead is less than 40 feet. So the state is not taking any jurisdiction over this. With regards to the property next door, I also did that application, that permit approval for a swimming pool. That house is actually only 11 feet from the road, where this one is closer to 18 feet from the road. We had to get a Board of Review variance for the sanitary system to be upgraded to an IA system in the side yard at less than 20 feet from the swimming pool that was proposed. To the east of that parcel, that property has no bulkhead and has full groundsel bush, very nice wetlands. Pretty much every house on this street on the waterfront has 2 stories, so this is nothing out of the ordinary that we are requesting. It's actually it's a 4-bedroom house. It's pretty reasonable. I submitted some floor plans earlier this evening to Teresa. It's a master bedroom with 3 other bedrooms. There's 4 bathrooms, a bathroom for each bedroom. 2 of the bathrooms are larger. The other ones are very modest. The laundry is upstairs with a storage closet. The first floor is basically an open floor plan for the living, dining, and kitchen. And then there's a small den that's right behind the swimming pool. And the mechanicals are all going to be on that first floor as well, because they can't be below the FEMA first floor elevation. So there's not a heck of a lot of things to do here. They're asking for a customary expansion that most people ask for. It's technically not a full expansion, a doubling of the 2 floors, if you were to account for the garage square footage. It's less than 3,400 square feet.
How wide is the house on the left section? How wide is the house all the way on the left?
It's pretty similar to the existing residence. Let me see if I can scale it quickly. It's about 40 by 27. So what is that? What's that math?
Okay. Now on your proposed house,
It's about almost 1,100 square feet.
you presented a first floor coverage of 1,563 square feet.
Correct.
Does that include the swimming pool?
No.
And does that include any decks?
The decking is separate. There, as you can see in the plan, there's a very small porch just to get into the house in the front, and minimal decking. The pool is actually going to be butted up against the building with this small deck right adjacent to the house. It looks like it's only 6 feet, that deck, 6 by 17 and a half. And then some stairs to get down from the deck to the property. The pool is not at grade. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. The pool will be at the elevation of the residence, which is at 10 feet above sea level, which is about 4.2 feet above grade. The pool will be very minorly in the ground, and it will be at least 2 feet above groundwater.
Can I just point out one thing? The existing patio on the seaside of the house is unauthorized. There is no permit for it.
Okay, I understand. But nonetheless, you can see on the plan the dotted lines of the decks and the residence, and everything is further back than the existing decking right now. So we've maximized the setbacks within the capabilities of the property, and also the IA system is dictating everything here, because that's taking up a large amount of space with the proposed expansion. basically the health department has approved this plan, pending receipt of this permit.
This is Marty. If I could just offer some brief comments. If the landowner wants to proceed with this type of layout, that's fine. We're only asking that some minor revisions be made in order to achieve a minimum 40-foot wetland setback for construction of the house and a minimum 50-foot setback for the pool. If you look at the alternative where the pool is sited on the west side of the house, if the pool trough was eliminated and the width of the pool was reduced to 80 feet, 8 feet, you could achieve minimum 50-foot setback for the pool. And the recommended minimum 40-foot setback for the house could be achieved by just shaving off 2 to 3 feet. So I think, consistent with this office's policies, we are looking for a way to allow for residential development in a manner that achieves the applicant's goals. However, we just think at an absolute minimum standard of 50 feet should be achieved for the pool and 40 feet for the house. Thank you.
Where are the wetlands on this property?
They run along the main face of the bulkhead where there is an open ramp. As shown on the site plan, the high water line is consistent with the high water line running along the bulkhead. That is.
What's going to be done with that ramp opening and that bulkheading?
It's right now it's naturally vegetated, and the agent, the applicant's agent, can correct me if the plans have changed. But the current plan is just to leave it as a naturally vegetated ramp. And as part of the existing covenanted buffer, as well as part of the future expanded buffer. I should also mention that if the setbacks of the pool and house are increased, there is some opportunity for additional minor expansion of that buffer as well, consistent with our policy of maximizing naturally vegetated buffers. Thank you.
Were there any buffers on this property in the past?
Yeah, there is an existing covenanted buffer on the property.
Is that the hash marked one notated on the survey?
Yeah, where it says existing buffer. That's the existing covenanted buffer.
And so we're expanding that to...
You can see a different adding of shading where it indicates proposed buffer. That's recommended expansion.
Oh, so they just put the silt fence in for the construction, so that won't be there. Will there be a fence there, or what are they doing with that?
I believe the applicant can speak to that, but I believe the pool enclosure fence would potentially run along the landward boundary of that buffer.
Quite honestly, I'm not sure if they need a fence there because the
pool's elevated.
Pool's elevated more than 4 feet, so
they would need a fence on the steps, but if it's elevated more than 4 feet, they would not be required to put a fence otherwise.
Right. So I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe Loris can tell us what their thoughts are, because we haven't really addressed that.
I'm open to anything that the board recommends regarding the fence.
I don't think that your plan is to have a fence going across the whole property.
No.
Can you scroll up on this plan?
Can I
To see
correct?
I'll try to. I don't. It's this PDF is not very user friendly.
Go to the side and use the scroll bar.
Yeah, no, I know. This is like they just rebooted my computer. They had to rebuild my computer, so it's not set for the default thing. So it's a different program that's using it. I could try and use a different. See if I can open it a different way. Hold on one moment.
Just for the record, I just want to mention that I did not install the patio that is on the property that was there when I bought the property in 2012.
So for this septic system, is it going to have retaining walls?
No, no retaining walls are needed.
What's the test hole data? How deep to water?
Don? Groundwater's at 1 foot, and it's grades like 5, 6 over there.
Test hole 1.
6.4. Grades at 6.4 above the septic, and groundwater's at elevation 1, so it's 5.5 feet down, basically. So there are 2-foot leaching galleys that are proposed. Like I said, the health department has approved the system parameters pending receipt of this approval. And also, I was looking, I have the survey for the adjacent property, and the existing buffer here meets up with the point of their existing buffer next door. So any expansion on that would be more than what's next door on the bulkheaded property.
So what would you say your mitigation is?
I would say the huge point of mitigation here is the upgrade of the sanitary system to the furthest setback possible. Expansion of the buffer, installation of drainage, pervious driveway, all of the normal things that the board looks for that are not necessarily present at the moment. FEMA compliance.
Is that for me to pick out or you to tell me?
Well, I just told you.
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think I explained that before also, as far as the drywall installation, the pervious driveway, the sanitary system, the expansion of the buffer. Like I said, the existing cesspools are 17.5 feet from the bulkhead. So to me, the upgrade of the sanitary is huge here.
If I just may make a point here, it's a requirement. It is not mitigation. You are required to upgrade the septic system to an IA septic system when you are building a new house. That is town law, and it is now county law. The county is now enacting new legislation that says that effective whenever they adopt the revised code, they are requiring all new construction to put in an IA septic system and any expansion beyond 5 bedrooms.
I understand. They could also just keep the existing house and not have to do any of these things. So, you know, I don't know.
Right, but you're also doubling the size of the house and asking for a swimming pool. So I'm just saying that it's not mitigation because you are required to do so.
I always look at anyone that puts these systems in, even though they have to put them in, there is some mitigation involved because it's not an easy process. It's been legislative to put the burden on the property owner, and it was something that was supposed to be expanded in terms of sewers all the way to Montauk Point. That never happened. So for me as a board member and going through an IA system, you know, and doing a project and going through the disasters of going through it and the expense, I look at it as though it is a little bit of mitigation involved in these projects.
I agree with you, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, if you look closely at the opposite plan, the structures are actually on that pinch point side of the bulkhead. They're actually further from the bulkhead than the existing structures. There's a corner of existing decking that's on the back of the garage, and there's some additional decking that's in the side yard, as well as a whole portion of the garage that are still closer to the bulkhead on that east side than the proposed swimming pool and the residence. To me,
this is Marty, just offers some additional brief comments. Notwithstanding the benefits of installing an IA or WTS on this property, the wetland permit issuance standards as set forth in Chapter 325 do require that we consider practicable alternatives in the interest of maximizing wetland construction setbacks and wetland buffer setbacks. That being said, it would be helpful for the applicant to indicate why some minor refinements could not be made to this plan in order to achieve a minimum 40-foot setback for the house and a 50-foot setback for the swimming pool, consistent with the board's policies on similar properties. Thank you.
well, these plans are our alternative plans. Meeting a 40-foot setback for the residents would be fairly simple on the plan with the easterly pool. However, then it would make it nearly impossible to have a 50-foot setback for the swimming pool. Flipping the plan would be a more significant reduction to the residents and make it slightly easier to achieve the 50-foot setback for the swimming pool. So it's a matter of which is more important, I guess.
Well, I mean, this is Teresa Mason again, and well, that's what should be explored, an alternative where you reduce the footprint of the dwelling and keep the swimming pool, or you put the swimming pool on the house and try and shift the dwelling around, or you eliminate the swimming pool. Those are alternatives that should also be explored in order to achieve those setbacks of 40 and 50 feet respectively. I mean, again, you're asking for significant relief, you know, even at 40 and 50, that's 60-foot relief. And 50-foot relief. That's more than half of the required setback.
Daphne, the testimony that was given earlier is that your client is not interested in using native vegetation throughout the whole property, but rather wants lawn. Would you address that, please, and give the details?
They would like to have some lawn on the property, I think most specifically between the house and the buffer, just so there's, you know, some ability to use the property. Also, they would like to be able to get to the dock with a kayak or whatever. So doing anything on the sides would not be very helpful. Over the sanitary system, I'm not sure. I mean, that might be a possibility. Maybe.
The house is elevated, isn't it?
What's that?
The house is going to be elevated.
The house is going to be about 4 feet above grade, so I'm sure there'll be some foundation plantings on the front of it. I'm not sure of the preference of the homeowner.
The freeboard was 10 foot.
What's that?
The freeboard was 10 foot.
I had no problem with natural vegetation if the board is happy with it.
Natural vegetation offers a clear benefit that is probably more important than all these other minor things we're talking about. Because all these minor things are more administrative. You know, the law recommends a certain setback and this and that. We're talking about a foot or two here or there. And in the end, I don't think anybody who doesn't know the property can really tell the difference in one plan from another. But when you talk about native vegetation, you take away the incentive to add fertilizer and add other materials that can be harmful. It is one of the reasons why we're looking for a big setback is to create more buffer so that there is less nitrogen, is less insecticides and herbicides and chemicals added to the property. So if we use a native vegetation, just in general, and it's dangerous to stereotype because every property is different, but I look at the alternative septic system as extremely important, and native vegetation is extremely important. I don't want to diminish the setbacks. That's not the point of what I'm saying. My point is that with a new innovative septic system, we're now depositing much cleaner water into the groundwater. And with native vegetation, we're less likely to put harmful substances into the groundwater. So those are direct things that benefit the waterways, which is one of the primary purposes of Chapter 325. So my feeling is native vegetation around the whole property is a must. And I think that you can be creative in the native vegetation. Marty is very good.
I'm totally okay with this.
At looking at plans that achieve things that you want to do on the property simply using native vegetation. Lawn is not the only way to get the same benefit. So I think I heard the applicant say you're okay with native vegetation.
Yes, 100%.
That's a good thing.
Any more thoughts by any board members, particularly those who haven't spoken up?
No.
This is not a vacant, pristine lot. This is an existing property that has an older home on it with an older sanitary system that we're looking to upgrade basically everything to be code compliant as far as FEMA, building codes, you know, and sanitary systems. It's going to be a saltwater pool. It's basically in keeping with what's surrounding it in the neighborhood, and a lot of the properties, as I mentioned, up and down the road, some of them are bulkheaded, many of them are not, and have homes of similar sizes.
In the methodology of doing a project of this nature, that is the demolition and the construction, what protections will you afford the vegetation, particularly the beach grass that is heavily vegetating the area immediately landward of the bulkhead?
As far as a project limiting fence, you're saying?
Yeah. How much of that are you going to save?
Oh,
more than save, but how much of that are you going to not disturb?
Well, there may be some minimal disturbance for the removal of the cesspools, but I'm not sure. And maybe if Mike is still on, maybe Mike can address if the health department will allow us to just pump them clean and backfill them with sand, or are we going to physically need to, although maybe Marty can address this, because they would then become part of the buffer, would we need to physically remove those cesspools, or could we just fill them and leave them in place?
Yeah, so Michael is on, but I don't know if if you controlling his unmute button to let him speak.
Because if we just have to backfill them,
I'll get him in.
then there would be minimal disturbance to the existing buffer. If it would be required to physically remove the cesspools, there may be some minimal disturbance, mainly on the western side, closer to the pathway to the buffer.
If I could just offer a comment on that, having been to the property several times, the beach grass covering the buffer could easily be salvaged as part of the abandonment of the existing system. My preference is to remove the actual cesspools and septic system once that system is pumped clean. This is not an area where we have considerable shrub or tree cover, so the vegetation could be salvaged. It could be set aside, healed in elsewhere on the property, while the existing system is excavated and removed. So that's typically my preference in these cases. Thank you.
Well, I would say that this application needs a plan to really, put some plantings in there, some native vegetation.
For where?
Well, not only for the buffer. I mean, I think this house it is a large area. When I look at the aerial of the property, I could see how it fits into what was there and how you're adding the extra square footage by connecting everything. You're elevating it to FEMA compliant. I like that. The boat ramp is going to be gone, and that's going to be allowed to grow. I think that silt fencing line, there might be an opportunity to do something in that area in terms of putting in some native grasses. I just think that there needs to be, like I said about the IA system, I think it's great that there will be an IA system there when there isn't one now. But it definitely needs to have vegetation in it and be more absorbed.
Yeah, the existing ramp, as spoken to the applicant, spoken to by the applicant, is already naturally vegetated. So there would be no need to revegetate that existing ramp.
What about in front of that line, that non-disturbance line, to maintain that it's not going to be actively, encroached upon?
The existing buffer line from the last inspection, the area landward of the existing buffer is not really well maintained lawn. It's been kind of left alone at the moment. So, obviously if you're going to require native vegetation, it's really not going to require much removal of existing lawn areas.
Okay, well, you just heard the applicant testify that he's interested in having a lawn. So I'm trying to address that now because Harry said, hold on, I'm speaking. Because Harry said that he'd like to, see native grasses put in some vegetation. And at first the applicant was not interested in doing that. And then he testified soon after that he would be interested in doing that. So I wanted to just bring it up to address it now.
And I would just make clear that my office is always supportive of native landscaping. And we're happy to work with the applicant to develop a native landscape plan for the entire site.
Sorry, so for the record, I am 100% for this vegetation of the whole property.
I threw that in for you already, sir.
Yeah.
So
I would just offer as a final recommendation is notwithstanding our recommendation that property be landscaped with native vegetation, as spoken to in testimony. I still would recommend that minor refinements be made to the pool and house in order to achieve a minimum 40-foot wetland construction setback for the house and a minimum 50 feet wetland construction setback for the pool, and that can easily be achieved.
How would you recommend they achieve that?
If you take
Out close to the road?
No, you would if you take a look at the alternative that puts the pool on the westerly side of the house. The proposed pool is 12 feet in width, and then there's additional pool trough seaward of that. They could eliminate the trough, which, as you know, is a spillover area, and they could reduce the width of the pool to 8 feet, as the board has done in many similar occasions. If you look at the size of the house, in order to achieve a minimum house construction setback of 40 feet, they only need to take a few 2 to 3 feet off the width of the house. So I am recommending that the board go with the concept that you're seeing right now before you, but that it be just slightly scaled back. Thank you.
Even with that trough removed, it's 42.7 inch, 42 feet 7 inches, correct? To the trough and the bulkhead.
Yes,
And that trough is what, 2 feet?
4.
So it's 40.
So if you eliminated the 4 feet wide pool trough and you reduce the width of the pool to 8 feet, you would achieve the minimum 50 feet setback that I'm recommending.
An 8-foot pool, an 8-foot wide pool?
Yes, you've proved that in many cases where you've considered constrained lots. As you know, I had also recommended, because the house is going to have a flat roof, that the applicant consider construction of a pool on the rooftop, which would provide an opportunity for a greater size pool and considerable additional decking than is shown on the current plan. So that, of course, is always another option for the applicant to explore.
Is this the original plan, Daphne? Was the original plan a little bit larger than this?
Yes, the original plan was in keeping with the angling of the existing house.
Mm-hmm.
So it brought the house slightly closer to the bulkhead, to the face of the bulkhead, and I believe everything was also closer to that pinch point on the east side. So we straightened everything out and tried to push it back as much as possible. The pool was actually closer because that, the secondary portion of the house behind the pool was more seaward. So we kind of skewed that section so that it would meet the pre-existing non-conforming front yard setback from the road and push the pool with it in order to maximize the setback.
And with the pool on the east side, we do have more buffer on the east side?
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's easier to have a greater buffer with the pool on the eastern side, because there's also, I mean, you don't want a buffer right on top of your house. So flipping it, the house gets closer to that point, and I think would need a lot more reduction to achieve that 40 feet that Marty is requesting. So we may be able to achieve closer to a 50-foot setback for the pool but in that location, the pool is behind a majority of bulkhead. Like in theory, the adjacent property on the west side is also bulkheaded. So if you want to be technical, if you put the pool on the west side, you have 100 linear feet of contiguous functional bulkhead between this property and the adjacent property, which would then be customary for the 40-foot setback. I mean, you could say that about the other direction, but the pool is more in front of that return into the boat ramp. So.
And the pool right now is 12 feet by about 20 feet?
12 by 20, correct.
You know, as an alternative, if they put the pool on the roof and they have the rooftop deck, they could also have a small deck on the first floor. You know, that's approximately 50 feet from the wetlands, because that way they'll get some usable space on the outside. That's not on the roof. That's an alternative, to have a small deck on the first floor with a rooftop deck.
I'm not sure that a roof deck would be a good thing to have here, because Long Beach is right across the street, and although you would have wonderful views, you'd also have all those cars that are passing there that would see you, where right now there's vegetation across the cove, so you can probably get a view from the second floor of the house, but not so much from the swimming pool.
Also, it could get pretty windy up there.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, I'm sorry, Teresa, but that seems like an extreme suggestion to put the pool on the roof. I mean, there's no pools. There's a lot of pools on that block, and there's no pools on roofs.
See that suggestion all the time. As a property owner, I would never want a pool on my roof.
But you have required it before. The perfect example is 466 Job's Lane.
Yes, we know it's been done, but I think in this particular situation, I think it's an extravagant move to ask it.
If someone wants it, it's not a crazy suggestion. But I would think that most people wouldn't want it.
Just for clarification, we're not requiring that pool be constructed on the roof. We just offered that as another option. Oftentimes, landowners like that option. That's the reason we suggested. Again, they want to go with this type of layout, that's fine. You know, I just think, it's important to try and achieve that minimum 50 feet setback for the pool and 40-foot setback for the house, which can easily be achieved if the pool is put on the west side of the house.
Right now, before us, we have two alternatives. The applicant has stated that that she prefers the pool on the east side. Just listening to all the comments and the testimony, the benefit of the east side is that there's a greater buffer and a smaller house. The benefit on the west side is that it would be easier to achieve the setbacks that Marty is recommending. From what I see, I would choose the pool on the east side right now of these two drawings.
Can this whole project be slid forward closer to the road a little bit, a couple of feet, Daphne, or not?
I've maximized that because of the sanitary system. The bulk of the house has to be 10 feet from the septic, and that's exactly where it is. We've pushed it as close as possible, and like I said, that secondary portion is sitting at that 17.8 foot pre-existing non-conforming setback. 17.8 feet is crazy close to the road. The minimum zoning requirement is 30 feet. The only reason that we would be eligible for the 17.8 feet is because of the pre-existing nonconformity.
What about the elevation, putting on the pilings? The county doesn't, give you less of a distance for that septic tank? What if even if you built retaining walls around it. That's crazy. 'Cause you don't need it.
Under the health department minimum separation requirements, the pilings, the septic system has to be 10 feet from the foundation regardless, unless it's a slab. That's the only time they make it, a reduced setback. If you add retaining walls, it actually increases the setbacks because there has to be, I believe, a 10-foot setback from the retaining walls to the septic tank and leaching pools, I believe, from the retaining walls.
Correct.
The board should recognize that if you go with the concept that puts the pool on the west side of the house, there is yet an opportunity to expand that buffer. So, yeah, the plans that they're presenting to you perhaps show some additional buffer if the pool is put on the east side, but additional buffer could easily be accommodated on the if the pool is put on the west side of the house, because the main section of the pool trough is about 15 feet landward of the landward boundary of the proposed buffer. So there's certainly an opportunity to be a little creative and provide some additional buffer. If now that the landowner has indicated that they're willing to landscape the entire property with native vegetation, that'll offset any lesser covenanted buffer as well if you went with the westerly concept. I think the concept and layout that calls for putting the pool on the west side of the house is more compatible with the wetland permit issuance standards.
As a reminder as well, is if you reduce the footprint of the home that has the westerly alternative, you'll actually bring the dwelling size down to be compatible or very similar to the easterly alternative.
The pool is going to be elevated and it's going to be a saltwater pool.
Yes.
Okay. And we're achieving more buffer on the east side, and the landowner has agreed to extensive landscaping.
All native vegetation.
Yes, and I just, my feeling is that that's mitigative enough in terms of the distance that we're talking about here. We're not talking about 20 feet. We're talking about a couple of feet. And I think what's going on here is enough to mitigate that. We have to be reasonable.
But let's, we need to move on because we're spending a lot of time on this, and we have to decide, do we want to push this off for another meeting and hash this out again, or let it go? I want to see where the board lies on that, so I know if we should keep on going with this or if we should move on. And any board member who wishes to speak up is certainly welcome to.
I've seen enough tonight. I don't know how everybody else, I haven't heard from Tom or Jerry, so I don't know what's going on.
You're all talking for me.
I didn't hear what Tom said, but I think the applicant has given us quite a bit of mitigation, so I'd be ready to move on.
Me too.
Then, is there anyone in the public who wants to speak on this application?
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
Okay, who is that?
Ed Jablonski.
Okay, what would you like to say?
I'll just tell you.
His address too.
Okay. Oh, as I start the video, I got to do that again. Okay, let's start off before. Okay, start my video. I'll just let you know I'm retired. Thought I saw the sign in the yard about the hearing, and I live across the street for 40 years, so I just thought I'd see what's going on. I never been to one of these before, but anyway, I haven't been in that house in like many, many years when the original owner, Charlie McIntyre, had it. And looking at that house now compared to the other houses on that side of the street are very tall. So putting that two-story house there would be compatible with the other houses that are next to it and basically all the way down that side of the street. Anyway, I just think it would be an enhancement to the neighborhood to have that house, as I saw the plan. I did see one other thing. Looking at what you showed before about the pool on the west side, I actually go boating down the coast. I kind of know it's on both sides, but on that westerly side next to the Johnson residence, basically the pool would have hardly any view. It would be just a straight view out to a narrow view. It'd be a narrow view out to the just straight across. But on the easterly side, you'll have a much more expansive view down the creek, and would really be an enhancement to the house. The thing about that break in the bulkhead, I'm no expert on any of that, but it sounds like if that bulkhead is it's not any wetlands in there. It's just like this mistake that it's that way. So I don't think that has too much benefit, too much consideration. But anyway, I just think it's a good design. I'd like to see houses on that side of the street all basically the same. And on my side of the street, they're coming around, and about half of them have already been done. So I think that'll be nice for the neighborhood. I'd like to see it.
Thank you for the comments. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to speak on this application?
Stephen Leffler, 68 Whitney Road, Sag Harbor, New York. I live down the block. I also live on the water. I fully support the application, in particular the fact that the IA Watt system is so so good for the the nitrogen that gets entered into the cove right now. Whoever made the comment before about the couple of feet, I personally don't believe that makes much of a difference, and I fully support the application because, quite frankly, we're all tired of looking at the house the way it is, and I think that they'll do a very nice job, and I think that you should approve it.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry? Thank you. And that concludes the public hearings.
Thank you.
The administrative wetland permits are in your packets. And now we'll move on for the resolution of conditional approval.
I'm going to go move on that block.
A190082 Rawson Road Association, Inc. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Rawson Road Association, Inc. for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Harry?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but before you do your vote, you actually have to read the part about the determination of significance and the unlisted action information. You need to make sure that's clear that they're voting on that as well.
Okay. Then.
I apologize, but and that will also apply for Mir.
And where would I find that?
It should be like the therefore now be it resolves on the resolution. It's like the one up, like the next two up from that last paragraph.
Okay.
Yes, second to be it further resolved. Well, the first three. I'm sorry, Teresa. It's required by state law that you seek a determination, and that's the reason why they should be spoken to as part of your vote on this resolution.
Okay, so I don't have that before me, so
The resolution starts by saying, now therefore be it resolved that the Conservation Board finds that the revised project plan is unlikely to have significant adverse environmental impacts. It goes on to say, be it further resolved that the Conservation Board adopts a determination of non-significance or negative declaration, and then says, be it further resolved that the chairperson is hereby directed to sign the environmental assessment forms, part 2 and 3, inclusive of the determination of non-significance or negative declaration. And then it goes on to say that the board is granting approval for the permitted activities. So
what I just pulled up on the link that you sent, Teresa.
Sorry, it's just, you got to make sure you do it by state law. That's one of the easiest things for people to sue you on.
So to make it easy for the board can take into consideration the resolve clauses that I just read, in addition to the language that grants approval for the project and notes that the approval should be conditioned upon certain mitigation measures.
All right, I think I have it here. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Conservation Board finds that the revised project plan is unlikely to have any significant adverse environmental impacts. And be it further resolved that the Conservation Board adopts a determination of non-significance or negative declaration. And be it further resolved that the chairperson is hereby directed to sign the EAFs Part 2 and 3, inclusive of the determination of non-significance or negative declaration. And then I think I can skip the next paragraph, right, Marty?
Yes.
And go down to
the last, be it further resolved.
Yeah, resolve that a conditional approval will be granted to Rawson Road Association, Inc. for the proposed project on the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And Teresa, you wanted me to print that out, right?
Yeah, the document for Rawson, it's 2 pages. Rawson Road each. You'll need to sign it, and then you'll mail it to me, and then I'll sign it, and it stays in the file.
Okay.
So you'll need to do that for Rawson and Mir.
Now I need to sign. I need to sign that actual thing that I just read, or is there something else?
No, I emailed you separately yesterday a copy of the EAF Part 2 and 3 for each of the 2 applications. And it's 2 pages each. It's a PDF, and you just, again, print it out, sign it, and then you mail it back, and then I'll sign it, and then it stays in the file.
Okay. I will attempt to do that. So move on to A 020010 MIR Noyak Realty LLC. Any discussion?
You have to, again, speak to the recommended seeker.
Yes, I'll read that after I get a motion to approve. And if anyone wants to make a motion, this would be a good time to do it. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve, now therefore be resolved, the Conservation Board finds that the revised project plan is unlikely to have any significant adverse environmental impacts, and be it further resolved that the Conservation Board adopts a negative declaration, and be it further resolved that the chairperson is directed to sign the EAFs Part 2 and 3, inclusive of determination of non-significance or negative declaration, and Be it further resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to MIR Noyak Realty LLC for the purpose project from the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Okay, I sure like the abbreviated ones. A020006 JL Holdings 2002 LLC. Any discussion?
Motion issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval will be granted to JL Holdings 2002 LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
A020050 Megan Varascas. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Megan Barascos for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
A020051 Brian Coyle and Karen Coyle. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolve that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Brian Coyle and Karen Coyle for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Preliminary review circuit determination A020052 Douglas Zolo and Lorraine Burke Zolo.
Yeah, this application relates to an existing residentially developed property that has frontage on Smith's Creek and town-regulated tidal wetlands. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated October 28, 2020. The applicant is seeking board approval in order to construct various additions and improvements at the site. The applicant has requested that a public hearing be held.
Motion.
Are they asking?
Motion to schedule public hearing for December the 2nd, 2020.
Thank you. Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules a public hearing for December 2nd, 2020, and a notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
A020054 Catherine Detmer and the applicant request postponed until November 4th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved. Postponed till November the 4th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
A020060 Kenneth Spencer and Patrick Spencer.
This application relates to an existing vacant bulkheaded lot in the Shinnecock Shores community. Parcel has frontage on the Shinnecock Bay system. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated October 27, 2020. Historically, this property was residentially developed, but the house was storm damaged and has since been removed, with the exception of remnants of a concrete foundation and asphalt drive. The applicant is seeking to redevelop the property. They're asking for a wetlands permit in order to build an elevated FEMA compliant single family dwelling on helical pilings. There are also various decks and walkways and utility improvements that are proposed, as well as a pervious paver patio on a sand base. The The applicant is proposing a 20-foot naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, consistent with the board's policies for bayfront lots in Shinnecock Shores. I am asking for minor modifications to the project plan, including a reduction in the size of the patio to establish a minimum 35-foot wetland construction setback. I'm asking that rather than utilize conventional drainage structures, that the applicant install subsurface drainage chambers or French drains, at least 35 feet landward of the wetland boundary. Those alternative structures are better suited for the shallow groundwater conditions. The advisory report provides additional details in terms of the required mitigation. This is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing?
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Resolution issue modification A190002. State of New York, Town of Southampton, and North Sea Colony Beach Erosion Control District.
As this board knows, the North Sea Beach Colony Beach Erosion Control Tax District was established in order to allow for renourishment of the eroded beaches in this community. The original plans that the board approved after holding significant public hearings and getting quite generous public input, called for utilizing dredged materials at the town-owned Tout Point Beach on the opposite side of the North Sea Beach channel for the purposes of renourishing the beachfront, with the dredged sand to be placed on state waters in order to expand the width and elevation of the beach. The North Sea Beach community found that the project plans that this board had approved and for which they had received a permit for were cost prohibitive. So they saw an opportunity to abandon plans for utilization of dredged material at the town-owned Tout Point for the purposes of beach construction, and rather to use materials dredged by the Suffolk County Department of Public Works from the North Sea Beach channel. Those materials will be placed on beaches owned by the Druckenmiller property to the east of this community through a shared access agreement. Those materials will be trucked to the North Sea Beach Colony, where they will be placed on the state-owned underwater land. The parameters of the beach construction have otherwise remained the same. As indicated, only the source of the beach fill material has changed. There is no reason to revisit the seeker determined, nor is there a reason to schedule a public hearing, as the project has essentially not changed. In fact, the use of dredged materials from the North Sea Beach channel, which was a recommendation of this office initially, would result in less adverse wetland impact. So there is a resolution before you in order to issue the requisite modified wetlands permit to allow this project to proceed. They're looking to proceed at the end of this week. So upon adoption of the resolution, my office is poised to issue the necessary modified wetlands permit to let the beach renourishment project proceed this week.
Motion to approve the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to New York State, Town of Southampton, and North Sea Beach Colony Beach Erosion Control District for the proposed project about the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
CB 19015, Fabio Dano.
As this board knows, this application relates to an existing developed property at Cold Spring Court in the hamlet of Shinnecock Hills. The board held a hearing on this application. The landowner is seeking to demolish the existing residence and construct a new residence. The board had previously issued a permit to allow for residential redevelopment. However, the Suffolk County Department of Health Services decided to revoke the approval of the original septic system design and asked the applicant to explore alternatives, namely relocation of that septic system close to the wetlands. The original Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval was revoked because of the adjacency of residential domestic wells. So the health department has indicated that the proposed relocated septic system location would be protective of those proximate domestic wells. The applicant, as the applicant is seeking less wetland construction setbacks in order to relocate that septic system, the applicant has offered to relocate a previously authorized proposed shed from a former planned location 75 feet from wetlands to a new location greater than 200 feet from wetlands. The relocation of that shed would reduce the impervious coverage on the property within 200 feet of wetlands and within the area of this board's wetland permitting jurisdiction. As such, the relocation of the shed would serve to lessen impacts to surface water quality and wetlands. As this board knows, the applicant has established a covenanted wetland preservation area inclusive of all wetlands on the subject property. They have also established a covenanted required naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance non-fertilization buffer extending 75 feet landward of wetlands. The proposed relocation of the septic system would not result in any change to that buffer, nor would it affect the potential wildlife habitat benefits of the buffer, nor interfere with crucial wildlife movement and dispersal corridors through that buffer. There was some discussion at the hearing with regards to some recently installed non-native evergreen trees along a portion of the easterly property boundary adjacent to the planned septic system location. I did have an opportunity to revisit subject properties since the close of the hearing. The trees have been placed in that location along the side yard along the easterly property boundary, but they are still balled and burlapped. So they have not actually been planted. That being said, the resolution states that in the event that the Suffolk County Department of Health Services finds upon inspection of the premises and the septic system location that the location of those trees, if planted, poses the risk of impairment of the function of the septic system and requires that those trees along the easterly property boundary be relocated to other portions of this property landward of the required buffer, that will be required of the applicant as one of the many conditions placed on this permit and as shown in the draft resolution before the board. Thank you.
Any more discussion?
Motion to issue modification.
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Fabio Dano for the host project among the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or shall we adjourn?
You can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. Michael?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
George?
Aye.